Let me just start unmuting everybody once they've connected. If you guys want to drop your video, it's not a problem at all. If you find it's a bit slow or choppy, like Neil said, he froze for a bit there. Okay, I think everybody's back and Pia has joined us. Hello, Pia.
Hello, Chad. Sorry, I'm a bit late.
I was told to tone down, so I was going to say, yeah, we noticed. I don't know about the sorry part. Eh? Yeah, now look, I don't beat about the bush. I beat the bush, and if it's shaved, it's even better. All right, so Pierre, basically the discussion is really going around why people are not joining the meetings, and a couple of things. I think the short version of it is because information overload, especially in terms of the number of groups that are out there. And the second point, not knowing what the meeting is all about. And then my final question was, should I send out a personal invite and ask people as to why it is that they don't join the nets or the meetings? And I think that is the general consensus. If anybody wants to add something that I missed, let me know quickly. Okay, I don't think anybody has. So, Pierre, any comments on your side on this? And then I want to give the explanation I wanted to just before we timed out. But now, for some reason, I can't unmute you. Okay, Pierre, go try now.
Sorry, Chad. It's breaking up quite a lot here on my side. I don't know why.
All right. So, did you hear anything of what I said now, Over?
No, I didn't. Can you, if it's possible, can you say it again?
All right. I said basically the meeting is going around. The meeting is going around why people are not coming up on the net and on the meetings. In essence, the summarized version of it is information overload, too many groups, etc. Firstly, secondly, the need to know what the meeting is all about. And then my final question really was, should I send out a message, a personal message to everybody and ask them for their input as to why they don't attend? Is there something that you want to add there?
Okay, from my side, I think I've attended most of the net meetings. I've set my alarm on my phone for all the different meetings, meeting times, and so on. So I try to attend as much as possible. Over.
All right. Guys, again, I need to say the following. Number one, the information can't always just come from me to the volunteers. Each and every single one of you, especially those of you that attend these meetings, I think while I say this, I'm just going to mute everybody quickly to prevent some of the breakup that might be occurring on your side. I cannot be the only one to share the information with the other volunteers. When we get together like this and we come to a consensus in terms of probability, possibility, etc., when the discussion starts on a group or on the nets or whatever, I need you guys that attend the meetings, that attend the nets, to come and provide support. Because for me personally, I think a lot of the volunteers don't understand that in the background, there are other discussions taking place. To give you an example, Adrian, and I will talk on a daily basis. Rory and I talk about things on a daily basis. John and I discuss things on a daily basis. Trevor, now that Trevor's up and he's in the country, we're basically in contact on a daily basis. We are having, and Trevor will bear me out, we are having technical discussions at an extremely high level in some cases, which are not really pertinent or relevant in general at that level to the volunteers. So, for example, where Trevor and I were discussing immunity for COVID-19, the level of the discussion is actually not relevant per se to the volunteer, except to say to a volunteer, for example, thanks God, guys, don't take it for granted that if you get infected, you're not going to get infected the second time. So Trevor, if you agree with that, just give me a thumbs up so everybody can see it. So this is exactly where the problem comes in, the sharing of information with the volunteer structure as a whole. I am actually recording this session, so I'll save it. Now, Robert, for example, said, yes, scientifically, you need data in order to quantify it to determine a probability or an outcome or to move a plan forward. And I agree with that. So let me give you an example now. At the beginning of the declaration of the state of national disaster, there were queries coming in through various sources as to availability and resources. The first one that I needed a definite answer on, who is your ward councillor? Because that was critical to any participation that CERT may have been involved with. That was not something that I thumbsucked. That was as a result of what City of Joburg plans were looking at, and eventually the Gauteng province or provincial government was looking at. There was even a request for the registration of volunteers on the Gauteng provincial level, which I didn't share with any of you. And there was a reason I didn't share it. Because I wasn't getting the information that was relevant to the registration. So they, like now on Friday or Saturday, they release this commentary document where the public can comment on this risk-adjusted alert level with a deadline for 12 o'clock today. Had I requested information from the volunteers, I would still be looking for this information tomorrow. Yes, there are certain criteria of information, of categories of information that can change on a month-to-month basis. So my 40 meters is taken down in the last month. Let me update the profile. Because if Off-Road Rescue Unit asks me, how many of your volunteers are 40 meter capable? Yes, go to the page, do my report, the web page, the portal, the profile, CERT profile website. I've got those reports that the executive can draw. It's not available to the volunteers for privacy concerns. So I draw the report and I count 15. And 2 days later, Aru comes to us and says we need 5. And it turns out only one is 40 capable. I don't think that is professional at all. Usually there is a time limit. And it's not the case of, look, as part of our planning, we are only going to deploy. Trevor will bear me out. A deployment doesn't happen immediately. There is a plan for when to deploy. And the deployment plan is based on the availability of resources. So that the planning committee, in whatever format, by whatever agency it is, will base their plan on the resources. So initially, we've got a plan to deploy, but how many people do we need to book on a flight? They need to know those numbers first. We got 60, but our plan only needs 30. Okay, who can deploy in 24 hours? We got 15. Yes, here's a flight where there's 15 available. Get them on the plane. So a lot of the baseline information ultimately can be retained, updated, and kept up to date on a month-to-month basis. That in itself is going to reduce the number of WhatsApp messages, emails, personal messages, and requests that need to be made to the volunteers. It won't be as much clutter as what it is at the moment. COVID-19 disaster, slightly different. How do we deploy? It's a very good question. I've already identified 3, 4, maybe 5 areas that CERT could have been involved. The safety of the volunteers definitely needed to be considered. Therefore, no offer has been made on COVID-19. In terms of the Gauteng province's request and registration form, I could have registered EmComm Assist CERT as an organization. But the information took me up to a week to get out of the volunteers. And some of that information, funny enough, is because of the fact that the volunteers haven't updated their profile for 6 months. And the fields are still in red. They're still empty. They haven't been answered. So from my perspective, the need to meet on a regular basis for a once-off discussion like we are currently having, without it being an uitkak parade, we don't need that. I can give an explanation once, too many. The problem is we're 54 members. And there's 5 of you, 6 of you. Now I've got to go back and repeat myself to 50 other members. I don't have time for that. I've got other planning that needs to be done. I'm just logging back on here. I want to confirm our numbers. Or I've got to write a message and go and discuss it individually by typing. We're 53, of which 1 is on reserve, 52 of which 2 or 3 are probably not involved. So we'll bring it down to an average of 50. I don't know if I should try and share my screen. The last time I did, unfortunately, it bombed out. But in my reports menu, I can go and search for resources. And in that particular one, I can go and look for who is 160, who's 2 meter, who's up on 2, whose battery, when are you available? Do you want to work home field? So it's drawn from your CERT profile. And it'll give me a list according to what's listed in your personal profile. But then I'm going to have a look and see, but, you know, hang on a second. So-and-so hasn't answered when they are possibly available or if they'd like to work home or field. Do they have RU training? Do they have fire training? I know you got a first aid certificate. It's not on the list. Why don't I see you there? I can go and do a keyword search on anything else on the database. I don't need to ask the question on WhatsApp. So I'll use George, for example. He's got a level 3 first aid certificate. I need a first aider or list, but I don't see George on the list. But I don't see Trevor and Adrian on the list either. Oh, well, then the easiest is put it out on the general group. So instead of speaking to 3 people, because now I'm not going to go and have a look to see if each and every single one of the volunteers is actually marked that they've got their level 3. I put it out on the general group and I aggravate 47 other people. I said to especially the amateurs, in terms of our radio amateurs, "17 members are not SAL members," which is okay. That's fine by me. The thing is that out of the 35 odd that are radio amateurs, less than 10 of you have actually taken advantage of the free CERT licensing for the duration of this disaster. We could be doing this on the CERT frequency instead of Zoom. So for me, it is a problem not getting the information out, but the actual sharing of the information. Robert, let's start with you. Comments so far?
Yeah, I think I'd stay with what I said. I think the challenge is, I mean, for myself, is keeping all the boxes open and addressed. So it's an information overload management on my side, but no problem sharing the data and being part of that. I think it's often, in my case, a case of prioritizing the crises that I have to manage, or my perceived crises on my side. So there's a willingness, but an overwhelmedness.
All right, George.
Yes. I tried to access the. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Okay, good. I tried to access those frequencies, and there is a PDF file. There's a list of frequencies. Once you register, once you log into the CERT website, but I couldn't find that frequency. That's just what I'm saying on my side. And yeah, well, that's what I've got to say on my side. I tried to access that frequency and I couldn't find it.
Are you talking about the application form or the frequency signing?
Yeah, and the application form, yeah.
Okay, now, I don't know if you logged on, but if you look in the document library.
Yes, I went there.
There is CERT repeater licensing fees and application form.
Near the top, yeah.
Okay, so why couldn't you access it? Question.
Remember, okay, firstly, I don't have a printer, it's PDF. You got to fill it in and scan it.
No, there's an Excel document as well. You could download, save the Excel, fill in the Excel, and send that to me by email.
Very well.
Okay, now, George has actually brought up a very valid point here. And it's a crucial point that I need to cover. In order for all of the volunteers to understand that process, I'd have to discuss it 53 times. Whereas by holding a regular meeting, I could address this problem once for all, one time. Now, Battis is on shift, so he's joining us now. So again, you know, there seems to be an apathy, if I can use that word. We are 37 radio amateurs in total. However, I did extend this to other to other volunteers who have got radio equipment. And is this now because of a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge, or just a general lack of or willingness? Trevor, your comments.
Okay, start from earlier. Sounds of the meetings. I think for me, later in the evening is definitely better because I'm running around feeding kids, trying to get kids to sleep and so on. So your sort of, you mentioned 8:30 type thing, that sort of thing will definitely get my attendance in the meetings a lot more frequently. And then for these frequencies and so on, yeah, definitely need work to make sure that we got more people working on the same frequencies, and definitely the CERT frequency we actually need to get. I don't know how many people have got it, and it sounds like there's only a few people at the moment. I don't know if that's a cost thing for some of the people or not, but yeah, that is one of the critical things, is just to actually get people up on a common wavelength.
You know, we got, or at least I should say, I got caught with my pants down. I registered a new volunteer, and literally the following day, discovered that he had a Motorola DM 1600, or one of the DM models, which is fully fledged DMR radio. That just hold on a second. This is now Vodacom, and I want to tell Vodacom where they can stick their telephone calls. Thank you. Otherwise, I'm going to try and sign them up and register them for CERT, so that we got a legitimate reason to upset everybody and aggravate them. Trevor, yeah, I don't know if, look, the costing aspect, I've definitely tried to bring it down as low as possible. However, I said that I will make the frequency available at no cost for the next 2 months in order to encourage them to come up. So yeah, we get a new volunteer registered, And we're in lockdown, I can't even program his radio for him. And then he's stuck with the situation of the lack of antenna. Now, those of you that have been on the group and have been with me since 2016, which is where I actually launched, or when I launched this overall involvement initially under Hamnet, I've been telling everybody month after month, get your radio equipment up. We hit a national state of disaster, and half of the volunteers still don't have radio equipment up. George included, he knows it, but others had their radios packed in their boxes, and I'm not talking about you, Trevor. You know, so a lot of the encouragement that needs to come from my side starts off as encouraging and then becomes rather frustrating. Okay, Bertus, hello, and you're just going to have to stand by and pick up on where the conversation goes in order to understand where we are. Pierre, your comments.
Zoom now.
Yes, I have. I am a paid member of the CERT with frequencies, and I have programmed all of my radios to those frequencies. So I'm basically, yeah, you actually send it to me personally, I think via email, if I remember it correctly. So I am basically sorted out as far as that concerned. We did, between me and you, we did do a test the other day. My the antenna was a bit low, so I've since put it up a couple of meters higher. We haven't tested it yet, but I'm sure it will be better. For some other reason, I could, or we could contact each other better on the simplex frequency than on the duplex frequency. But I would like to do another test. Yeah, that's all from my side. Over.
All right. Now, I don't know if Bertus can hear me. Bertus, if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up. He did send a message on the group that he's having audio problems. However, Bertus and Neil also took up the offer and has programmed up, but Neil is a little bit far out. But he does have communication with John, based out on the East Rand. Bertus, I want to have a chat to as well, because Bertus and Neil might still be able to communicate. And the communications network is really something we've got to develop and expand. However, the point I want to bring up, and it is not meant offensively, I don't know what happened to Adrian. Adrian dropped off here. He's attending to something quickly. The point that I want to bring up here, as radio amateurs, we've got this belief and concept in our minds that ultimately just doesn't bloody work. Because homebrew equipment, handhelds on externals, really and truly from experience, is not working. You know, I've got the CERT repeater here, but I've also got the commercial repeater at Northcliffe. So it's got nothing to do with me, my height, my location, or otherwise. And through 12 months of testing on that site, many people with handhelds couldn't get through. And as CERT volunteers, I think we need to really concentrate on having a professional radio network, and therefore we need to look at having the proper equipment that is available. and that includes antennas. Look, I understand the costing aspect, but the amateur mentality is, look, let me spend 600 Rand on material to do a homebrew that doesn't work. And if they just waited an extra 2 months, they could have purchased a commercial antenna and put it up and it does work. And this is what boggles my mind. Trevor also has done numerous testing with me, from the handheld, from the base. He knows if he walks around his lounge, he's not guaranteed to come through. For the general day-to-day banter, yeah, maybe you can get away with your handheld. I quickly want to go make a cup of coffee. I can get away with using the handheld. But if it is during a legitimate situation where comms is a requirement, then we definitely have to make a plan. Either go and sit in the vehicle or go and sit in the shack. Robert is in a shadow there, but we don't know. We just don't know until he can get up a decent antenna. So I've got to ask a question. Guys, who's having problems? Nobody comes back to me, but nobody's on air. And then it turns out it's because of a technical issue. So come, let's deal with the technical issue, guys. Let's see who can assist. Let's see who can help. Let's see if we've got a solution somewhere, even if it is a homebrew. Sometimes the homebrew, you might be able to get through. I must admit, okay, who dropped off this time? I must admit that the club build antennas just don't work. I'm sorry, they don't work. We're fooling ourselves. So you get a guy that really talking like this, and everybody turns around and says, "You sound fantastic, dude. Me talk back at the rods." Nobody can understand a fucking word of what has been said. That is aggravating. We don't have time for this shit. Not if, look, the plan for EmComm Assist CERT is quite simply, and if you guys haven't seen it on the page, I have updated the front page. I've made it quite clear what we are. The object is to establish volunteer community emergency response teams capable of providing professional disaster relief and assistance. We can't afford this type of communication. It's something we all got to consider. George, since you came off of your handout, man, you're really sounding much better. I don't know if last night you were working on the handout, but at one stage you faded out, but then you came back in again. There's nothing wrong with having technical difficulties. One, there's nothing wrong with having financial difficulties. And three, there's no problem with just having general difficulties getting your equipment up. So if you are incapable, and I'm saying this due to the recording and for the benefit of the others, if you don't know how to get an antenna up, there's plenty of us out there that can help. Don't be shy to ask. We need to overcome this. We need to move EmComm Assist into that professional status moving forward. Several licenses have been issued for the CERT analog, but nobody is using it. Those that have got DMR capabilities, we use it on a daily basis. So my word of encouragement before this session times out, at which point I'll bid you all farewell and all the rest of it. I don't want to be rude when it just suddenly shuts down. My word of encouragement to all of the CERT volunteers is, number one, keep your profiles up to date. Number two, make sure that you find a solution for your radio communications. Number 3, ask for help. That we can put a plan together. I've already asked Adrian to possibly look at the cost implication on a J-pole, copper J-pole, which seems to be on the homebrew the much cheaper or the much more reliable option. And if it means that I've got to carry the cost to get the antenna up at your place to establish whether it works or doesn't work, if it doesn't work, I take it down, or you take it down, you give it back, I move it to somebody else's location. And if it does work at your location, then please pay for it. But we cannot plan when people are not putting information forward. When there's no data to work with, we cannot plan. I can't keep asking for the same things over and over and over and over again. You will see in due course, each and every single volunteer in due course will find out just how much work has been going on in the background. You're going to be shocked. There are major, major changes coming for the benefit of all. Even though we're now caught in, and in all honesty, this lockdown and everything else has delayed everything. Robert, very quickly, final comments. We've got about 3 minutes.
Yeah, all good from me.
Okay. Just before I ask George, I want you guys just to put some comments on the volunteers only group in support of what I have brought up and raised, and the frustrations and the recommendations and everything else. George, final comments?
You've pretty much taken the words out of my mouth with regards to a lot of issues. That's fine. So no further comment my side.
I know it took a bit of time. I don't know if you ever managed to get your poll up, but man, what an improvement. It's great to have you back up on air again. I mean, that's all I can say. It's great. Welcome back.
Yeah, I've gone back. Yeah, okay.
Okay, George, carry on.
Now I pulled out the 706 Mark II-G.
Yeah.
I packed everything away from last year even. Because remember, the ceiling came crashing down. That was rebuilt. And then I've got the 706 and I jacked up the power. And I'm using a purchased antenna, not a homebrew. And I'm grabbing the repeaters, so it's fine.
Yeah, there you go. We're down to the commercial antennas are working much better. If I hadn't got caught in a lockdown, I'd be testing a Predator economical antenna. I want to see exactly what range it's got. Trevor, final comments?
Well, yeah, you guys mentioned quite a lot of things, but I think getting the comms right is a crucial component of this working group, and I think the guys need to concentrate first of all just on getting the area and regional stuff right and working with, and including the CERT frequencies, specific frequencies, so that we actually have our own off-ham communications. And then secondly, reaching out to slightly further areas where some of the